Okay, let's go on to Matured Fire Department CD.
Madam Chair, I'd like to move that agenda item to after item 19.
Okay. Okay, so we go to item 19, Rescue 3, replacement and breather equipment.
All right, as I have been accused of earlier in the evening of burying things, I had already printed out where previous documentation of where we had been earlier in the year. The rig that we're, just to kind of go over the fact of what we're looking at replacing. First off, there was no $20,000 that was put anywhere for anything to repair that rig. The $20,000 was okayed by money that had not been spent by the department on other items. We had scrimped and scraped last year to try to keep that budget down, and we tried to keep that $20,000. That $20,000 was moved to the bridge project. When looking at the rig in Texas, it fell through that it had electrical issues that we felt they were insurmountable and that would not be a good fit for us. After that, it had been appointed to spend the $8,000 on a rig that is basically 79, as a 1979, which is roughly 38 years old. We owned it for roughly 9 years. We paid about $8,000 for it. We paid another $1,000 for graphics and radio work and some other stuff, so you can say 9 for it. There's 24,000 miles on it. The issue with it is that there's antifreeze that's getting into the oil. I've had several people that have looked at it. It has not gone to any shops because I have really no money in the budget, as you can see tonight, to even have anybody look at it. The shop that did look at it and basically told us that it's going through, there's several issues. I've had people give me estimates, and the estimates are down here further on. To locate the leak, it was anywhere between $600 to $2,000 just to find the leak. If the leak is the manifold, they said they could another $1,000 on that, and that would fix it. If it was the head gaskets instead of the manifold, they said it would be between $1,000 and $2,000. If it's a cracked head, they said it would be between $2,000 and $3,000 to fix it. And if there was a hole in the cylinder wall or between the sleeve of the jacket and the engine, they basically said that the engine would need to be replaced, and that would be between $6,000 to $8,000. That's kind of what got us up to this point. There was a committee formed, primarily it was almost all of the fire department. We had gone through and made it a needs, what the rig needs to have to be able to fulfill its job on the department. First thing is we knew that our breathers will be going up to 4,500 pound bottles eventually, so there would need to be a cascade system on it for 6,000 to be able to get up to 6,000 pounds so that you could fill the bottles properly. And also we would wish that the rig had a containment device so that it would meet NFPA standards. Our current rig does not do that. With Mavis and everything else moving people around, we felt that the seating in the rig needed to be at least 4 individuals, and 3 of those seats needed to be SCBA so that they could mask up en route or put the breathers on en route. They also needed room for the EMS equipment inside the rig where it's heated, not outside compartments where it's cold. We need room for our cold weather or Gumby suits. We had to do rescues, hanging them in the shelf in the rig station is not an option due to time restraints. You have personnel on a backboard or a person on a backboard to get out of the weather, waiting for transportation rig, i.e. an ambulance. Being that we have no ambulance or anything, sometimes we need to get somebody out of the roadway. You know, it's 20 below or whatever. If it's pouring rain, you need to get them someplace dry so that you can keep working on it until an ambulance can get there. Sometimes you get an ambulance for the first 2 patients, but not for the 3rd patient. So while they're waiting, we would just place them in there. Or if it's a firefighter or something that's not wanting to go, we can evaluate them and do different things like that until we convince them to take an ambulance. Another thing that we wanted the rig to be, we wanted obviously to be newer than 1990 or 1979. To a lot of people on the department, we wish to have an automatic transmission, an onboard generator and scene lighting, no rust, obviously, so we didn't have to do body work on it right away. Starts easier than the current Rescue 3. The current Rescue 3 is a gas engine, and if it sits for a little bit, it is extremely cold. The current rig only has basically a window shaker, air conditioner, or window air conditioning in it right now, which you have to open up a side compartment to let the air blow through this so that you can cool the back end of the rig, and it's only the back, and it's only when the generator is running. We need room for cribbing for car accidents and such, room for rehab supplies for EMS, and also for firefighters, i.e. water and such things. And also room for all of our hand tools that we currently have. Nice to have, but not necessarily have to have. They were hoping to try to find a truck with a hydraulic unit for spreaders and cutters, hydraulic generator, or a PTO driven generator, room for a ladder so it's NFPA compliant, a winch, command area for supplies, and painted for similar rigs so it kind of matches. Like I said, that was just nice to have. That kind of brings you up to date where we were with that.
Could I add one thing, Ron?
Yes.
We didn't have a place for a grain rescue kit. That wasn't in there.
Oh, correct. We do have a grain rescue kit which was donated by the FFA. And currently it's sold on Ritter, right? Also,
Yeah, the
I believe, right?
resident.
It's like a match or something.
No, he
You did it all?
donated
Okay.
it. Yes, he did.
Sorry about that. Currently it's got two 1-inch straps that hold it to the side of the inside of the rig. Current rig, the fire department has looked at, is looking at for your consideration. Dave, do you have yours yet?
Sure.
I have one too.
You have yours ready?
Yeah.
Well, then Dave, I guess you don't have to share if you don't want to. This is old accessories, so.
Okay.
You can kind of look along, I have a slide presentation for this. So that everyone in the crowd can look. This is the stuff that I've just kind of gone over with the current rate. This is also the cost stuff that I've already mentioned to you guys. Technology's wonderful when it works. There's the needs list that I just went through. Wants. This current rig is in Missouri. It's Holt Summit is the department that has it. It's roughly 500 miles away. It is basically a Quantum, Pierce Quantum. Pierce is basically top of the line chassis that they have with it. As you can see, it has actual steps that come down for safety reasons. It has the winch on the front, which was one of the requirements that they had. This compartment here has extension cord reel and a rollout tray. This one has a rollout tray for putting tools on, chainsaws and such. More rollout trays, and also another cord reel so that we can get power away from the rig in towards the building or other places that we're working. It has a 25 kW PTO driven generator, meaning no other engine that has to be runs off the engine of the rescue. And also has 3 more slide out trays. As you can see, where the pipe that goes up and down, that is part of the light tower. Here's got more, they have their jaws and stuff in here. We don't have any jaws for the unit, but we can put other tools, axes and other things that we carry quite a bit of. This is the cascade system on it. It's a 4-bottle cascade system. You see the blue thing just to the left there, that is a containment device. The bottle that you're filling will go into that, and then you close the door and you'll fill the bottle. If the bottle blows up while it's being filled, it's all with it contained within that blue box. This is the light tower. It's a 6,000 watt light tower. It has a remote control, so it spins, turns, and it also goes up. If you notice, it also has a door on the top, so it keeps it out of the weather. So if it's out on an ice storm and all of a sudden we need it, and you can pop the door up, it isn't in the weather itself. Those are roughly about a $10,000 unit if you buy it brand new. It has underbelly compartments, good for cribbing and other things. Another compartment here, they have a low pressure airline which hooks up to the cascade system. So if we have to run air tools on scene, we can run it through that instead of using our SCBA smaller bottles. It also has some drawers and another slide out tray. Inside the driver's compartment, this rig here, similar to engine 10, has lap belts and shoulder belts. Our current rig just has 2 lap belts in it, and only for the driver and the passenger. The people in the back have no seat belts at all. The department informed me that they will be leaving their Motorola VHF radio in it with also the headsets, so for better communications within the rig. Passenger side, it's just another picture of it. It has full air conditioning inside the rig, also heat. Here's the back. There's 4 SCBA seats across the back. It also allows us to go from the cab and into the back chassis through the cab. It has roll-up doors for the compartments, so you don't have doors swinging out in the aisle. Our current rig has doors that swing out into the aisle, so if the door's open, you have to close it to walk past it. It also, if you see in the ceiling, has 2 safety panels, so if the vehicle is rolled over or if it is hit in the rear and the front, similar to buses, you can climb up the top. It has also the room in the back where we said we need someplace to put somebody on a backboard. The back side there, you're able to put a backboard onto that. This is not a transport rig. This is strictly just someplace to get them out of the weather until the ambulance shows up, or to try to talk somebody into going in an ambulance so we can get blood pressure taken, things like that, without being out in the elements. It also has 2 more SCBA on that seat. The command center here, basically you have a place to put your maps or your paperwork, and then other places to put binders and things that we need. And also, with the rig that we currently have, we also have 2 radios. I do not believe that these radios will be left in the rig. I think they're taking them out, but we have 2 radios to put in their slots. So, the price for this rig was originally $95,000. Currently, I got them down to $80,000. Questions?
What year did you say that was?
1999. Does have a Detroit engine in it. It's an Allison transmission. I believe it's 470 horse.
You know how many miles on it? 25,000. 24,023.
Do you have a copy for me?
I can get you another copy.
Okay, that's fine. Oh, no, I'll just need it for the minutes.
Here.
Thank you.
So how to pay for it?
Basically, for what everything's kind of going on, I believe that we're going to have to take a loan out for it. I know Mrs. Opitz has done some work on that. I guess the question is right now, do you want to proceed with this one, or do you want the one for the breathers and then attack them both at the same time? Because the other issue will also be with that one, will also have to be tied in with the loan.
Anybody with questions on this? Otherwise, you can go ahead and present the film he has on the breathers.
We're having our Fall Festival on September 8th this year. The Fall Festival is to raise money for the fire department. This year, our main goal is to raise money for buying new SCBAs for self-contained breathing apparatus.
Reports when this fire started, 2 parents and 8 children were inside this apartment. He does this, you see the smoke just pouring out of the broken windows. And this is how amazing this firefighter is. As the smoke is coming out, we watch him crawl in this window.
That takes some major bravery to do that.
You're absolutely right. And these firefighters have a very important job to do because there's a 4-year-old child inside this home, the front door of one of the apartments. We see a firefighter coming out of the door, and he's carrying the 4-year-old child.
SCBA stands for self-contained breathing apparatus. The SCBAs themselves, the reason that firefighters need them is we need a clean air supply when we go into a burning building due to the fact of the smoke and the burning products that are inside there and the extreme heat that we're going into. The reason that McMillan stays with the MSA brand is because our counterparts, Stratford and Marshfield, also have MSAs, which means all of our firefighters can grab any breather off of any one of the rigs of our departments and be able to put it on and confidently be able to use it. One of the things about our older breathers is that the tanks are based on a 2,216 PSI pressure. Most of the departments that we are working with right now are running with 4,500 pound bottles. And that makes it so when we try to switch bottles between departments, our department bottles and breathers do not work with theirs. The other thing that's changing is it's changing the way that the masks are done. On the MSAs, there's actually 2 sets of batteries in this mask to make it work. One is for our heads up, which tells us how much air is in the bottle. The other one is our voice. If any of these batteries go bad, then they're not any good. In the newer breathers, there's one battery that is placed in the back of the pack, and one battery does everything. There's also batteries that are in the packs themselves, and there's actually another 2 sets of batteries in this pack. There's a battery in here and a battery in here. If any of those batteries fail or go dead, then the system doesn't work. The current bottles here that we have run us a firefighter roughly 20 to 30 minutes into a working structure fire. The ones that we're going for will run you basically from about 30 to 45 minutes. And that doesn't sound like much, but we have to also work in the fact that we have a safety factor where that 1,000 PSI is left in the bottle to exit the building when our alarms start going off.
I did not get a quote, but I did get some prices from 5 Alarm on the breathers. I'm thankful that you're all sitting. Out of the G1s, that's the unit that's sitting back there, and if anybody wants to do any demonstrations or anything with it, I can do that later. I know that we're running tight tonight, so I'm gonna kind of try to keep it brief, but if you want to see something, just let me know. The backpack itself is basically a $6,000 cost each unit. The masks are $290, which is less than the current masks that we purchase, and that's used for us, the ones that we've been purchasing to replace units that fail, or masks that get tore. The tanks are $1,000 a piece. The charger for the unit that is also sitting back there is $550. And the recommendation for a department of our size with our activity was 6 batteries at a cost of each battery $310, which leaves you with a grand total of $144,210. A lot of people say you can piecemeal these together. The problem is that these masks and tanks and stuff are 4,500 pounds. Our current stuff is 2216. So if you inadvertently take one bottle and put it in the deal and think it's a 4,500 and it's a 2216, you will blow it up, or at least blow the disc out of the bottle. The 2216 bottles will not fit into the 4,500 because they're a little bit slimmer in design, so they won't be able to be tightened down. The nice thing about it is that it is just one battery. It goes in and out, they're rechargeable, so they can be changed out weekly. They don't have to be done weekly, but as a rotation, you'd have to change out 6 batteries. Do it because on promotion that we go with 17. We currently have 24 breathers on our department. I'm feeling that we can cut back if we know that they're going to be good breathers. And if we have to, we can purchase some down the road one at a time. But we do need to maybe do a flip over. For NFPA standard, they're asking that every individual has their own face piece. That way they're responsible for cleaning it, no cross-contamination that way. If you have somebody that chews and they don't clean their mask very well, you don't want that mask next. Questions? Some of the funding out of this, I don't expect you to borrow the full amount for everything. If you remember, we do have our equipment CD. And in the beginning of the year, when you asked where are we going to designate it towards, this is where we're going to designate it towards. Also, I believe, now, we still have to get our final numbers, but we also stated that we were going to take and donate money from our Fall Fest into this. And I believe that the group would also, I don't have any authorization from them to say this, but I do believe that they will also continue to support this with future Fall Fest earnings.
How many units did you?
17.
17?
It takes and puts.
Piece?
6.
Well, the backpack is 6, but you need a mask for each person. I roughly put out 20 masks. We currently have 18 people on the department. You need 2 tanks for each pack, so that'd be 34 tanks at $1,000. You'd only need 1 charger and then 6 batteries.
So how much does that add up to?
The total for that would be $144,210. Next year, they said there's a promotion going on right now also with this. This would include the thermal imager in the pack, in the handle, which I can show you. We're done here now if you wish. It includes the thermal imager, and they said right now they're running a deal on that. But in December, sometime in December, the price is gonna be going up, and that price will get you up to $151,420.50. Because they said it'd be roughly a 5% increase in December.
So you have 20,000 in your equipment CD.
Correct.
And you're hoping to add hopefully another 10,000 to that, right?
Yes.
From Fall Fest this year.
Right now, I believe we can do that without even the calculations. I'm hoping with what happened this year, I'm hoping we can do 20, but until we final numbers, I'm not working with the 10 number yet.
Okay.
Because we do need our startup money for next year.
Yes, that's in your ordinance. So you think that you could front 40, approximately 40 for this?
Correct.
Well, it was 40 that we did put into the bridge. I need the motion that we can look at that again and bring that
Right.
back up.
Yeah, you did. So that would be 80, but we're still,
So what did thermal imaging cost a couple of years ago?
The thermal imagers, when you go through, I believe that they're like, I want to say they're between $2,000 and $3,000 now for the other ones. I'd have to go back and check, I mean, get it back down. But basically on the mass here, that's a $1,000 upgrade. If you do it right now, you know, like right now, when you're buying a breather, it's going to be more because it's all in the past device and everything if you try to add it later. So that's why I included it in now.
Well, because I thought you just bought one a couple of years ago,
Correct.
and plus you got the,
But that we have two of them. We have the main FLIR that we purchased, and we traded in our old one, and they gave us it's a very simple model. If you move it too fast, it jerks and stuff, which it's still a good unit, but it's just not quite the other unit. The thing with these is it puts everybody that goes into the smoke atmosphere has one with them. And there are more places that you use thermal imagers than just in the smoke. On a burning building, the officer may want to walk around the outside of the building and check for where it's extending to. In the city, we actually carry 2 of them on each rig. We currently have 1 on the engine and 1 on the ladder. And also, if you're carrying, I don't know if you've kind of seen them with thermal imagers, they're probably about this big around, probably about that tall with a handle on them. If you're going in, if you have an axe in your hand or a hose in your hand, that's one more thing to hang on to, or we do have clips, but it's one more thing to clip onto. If you look at this unit here, it's all right here in this. So there's nothing else, you can't forget it, you can't. And it's all powered by the one battery back here. It's all powered by this battery. And it can get separated, because obviously if you go in, you have one thermal imager. If the lead person takes the thermal imager and the back person gets separated from the group, now they're blind. If it's black smoke like was in the video. And that's very common for that dense of smoke in a fire. And we have, and with the breathers, it's not just that stuff's 15 years old and it's getting hard to get parts. But the composite bottles, they have a 15-year lifespan. Right now, we have roughly, between now, the dates kind of vary a little bit as they go through here, but by the end of the year, we'll have 12 bottles that will be out of service. Right now, we got, I think, 6 or 7 of them with green tape on them. According to basically the NFPA standards and stuff, and I think it's DOT, we're not allowed to refill those bottles. So if we use the air out of that bottle, we no longer have it. And we only have right now enough bottles for the 2 bottles per breather. So to stay compliant, I'll have to start taking mass breathers out of service.
So how many many sets do you wanna get for 144,210?
17.
17.
That gets us 5 on the main engine going out, gets us 5 on the ladder, and then the remainder would go on the rescue.
How much did you save last year that you were so frugal about? How much was there?
We felt there was about 20,000.
I was thinking
Well,
20.
yeah.
So, if you have 20 here, you get 20, you could possibly swing 60 down right now.
Correct.
So all told, with the mask and the truck, $224,200. And if we're looking at 60,000 that we have liquidation, whatever we're gonna call
Yeah.
it. Takes you 164 to get a truck and the gear.
Correct.
Is this the only truck we looked at?
It's not the only truck, I mean, it's not the only truck we looked at. Obviously, we looked at the one in Texas. We've been scouring the internet. This is one that I've basically been working with the department for probably about 2 months now. Trying to get information on it, back checking stuff, make sure stuff's correct on that. Tires are, because some of the things that came up was tires. Tires on the unit are 3 years old.
And those have to be replaced every
10 years.
The other thing is, it's compatible with the other engine we already have, so it's just about the same setup front as far as operator.
And the breathers are compatible with most of Stratford and
Correct, and we have in the past, for people that have not been following, we have been putting in for FEMA grants to replace these breathers. This is not the first time that we've been looking at the breathers. We've been looking at probably the last 3-4 years, trying to get grants in different ways through FEMA. The grants have just dried up. I mean, they're just gone. There's some money there, but unfortunately, we're not Detroit. It's broke.
so.
And the other departments in the area, Stratford has, as I stated, I believe they, don't quote me on the number, but I think they picked up like 12 breathers. Because they were sitting in the same position that we were. They ended up having to bite the bullet. Marshall was sitting roughly the same way. They did the same. The Rural Association also had to, they went with a different brand, but they fortunately were able to get a FEMA grant to help them out with some stuff.
How many fighters usually go to a fire?
Usually we're averaging about 12.
About 12.
Yes.
And
The one thing I know that you're getting at,
You
well,
wanna-
if
yeah,
we
you wanna
average
get-
12, then let's just get 12 of them. The problem with just getting 12 is in the wintertime, I don't care how good or how well they're designed, they do fail, they do freeze up. In the city, we found that out when we were using ours during the Christmas Eve fire, and also, I believe it was the next day Christmas fire, I believe. They were almost back to back. Or maybe it was New Year's, but anyway, those 2 cold fires that we had failures of freezing up. I mean, they thawed out and they were perfectly fine, but once you go in, so just to get just the number that you need. Also remembering that everybody that you send into the fire, you have to have somebody on the outside with a breather. To a certain degree, with some of the equipment that you carry in a rig also, with the fire up here at Galvin, I believe we had 2 Stratford people that responded with gear that beat their rigs. So if they're gonna go in, you gotta have breathers for them also. And we do cross-train to go that way. I mean, sometimes Cody or myself are up in the Stratford area, get fire or whatever. Page out McMillan, and we'll be up there before our rigs can get up there. So then we grab their stuff.
So this is 200 and some thousand altogether.
Correct.
So that's $100 and some for every resident in this township.
Correct.
And somebody was crying, spending about $1 and something for a community picnic, remember?
Well, this is a little different.
And it is no.
It is a little different,
No.
and so,
You want to talk per person, it's per person no matter what you do.
so,
And this would be a
you
spread
can't
out.
ask your firefighters to go into a fire without a mask. And what's the situation with what you have?
I mean, basically, the units are 15 years old. The one unit here with the older gear, this is one of our older ones. As I say, there's batteries here, batteries here. We don't have one with the speaker on it. There's a battery here, there's a battery here, so those all have to be checked. You can see all the straps and stuff are starting to wear on these units. They're 15 years old. A couple of them might be a little newer because we didn't purchase them all at the same time. But the other thing that's starting to happen on these is that the rubber's starting to get checked. So each year when they go through and do their flow tests on them, we usually lose a couple, then I have to purchase a couple more. Right now, those units, talking with the vendor, he says that on Wisconsin surplus, they're getting you about $18. And like I say, the big problem here is the fact that the tanks are running out of their life.
What are these tanks made out of?
Carbon fiber.
So they're not considered high-pressure vessels like other steel high-pressure vessels?
They're not like steel. Steel, you can use a
I
steel
understand
bottle,
what
which have
steel, I
steel
understand what steels, but you can static test them. You can't static test
on it.
these?
These get static tested, but they're still only 15 years.
So it doesn't make any difference if they test safe, if they can expand?
Correct.
Well, I agree with Gary.
I guess to throw it out there, if the board says we're gonna use them, we can use them until they explode on somebody's back, or until they fail hydro, but then the board's gonna have to sign off. I'm not signing off on it. There's certain things that I'll sign off and I'll say it's okay.
You
but
just
not-
mentioned a hydro test. So if they don't, do they wear out in 15 years? Is it determined they can't be used after 15 years?
I believe
Or they
that's-
can't be hydrostatic tested? Because hydrostatic testing, there's hardly a hydrostatic tested metal tank that probably won't last for 100 years. Because I understand high pressure tanks.
The basic out of it is, I don't know, I've not checked anybody. Through the DOT and stuff, we're not allowed to put air into them. So
No, they gotta
don't
be tested by a facility.
But I don't believe, like I said, I haven't asked, but once they expire, I haven't asked anybody if they would hydro test them after that. Because they're expired. They've had their useful life and they're done.
No, when every high pressure tank, hydrostatic, it has to be hydrostatic tested in 5 years.
Yes. And they get that.
And as long as they expand, as long as they withstand the test, they can run them until they stop. Because what they test them for is see if they'll still stretch.
But that's steel. That's not the carbon fiber. Because right, the steel tank that's there, and I brought it because that tank, until it fails its hydro test, can be used every day until it fails. There is no life on that one. But you can feel the difference between that and the carbon fiber.
All you have to do is wear the.
Now, I've worn steel tanks. I understand about wearing those tanks. So that's not the
This is
issue.
a board discussion, not an audience discussion. Thank you. Let's move on. Let's move on. We don't have a lot of time here to.
Okay.
Carolyn's the chair, she's running the meeting.
Obviously.
So, what else is there that we need to know? Or what are you asking?
Basically, I'm asking that we can replace the 17 breathers and purchase the rig.
Do we owe on the ladder truck yet?
What?
Do we owe on the ladder truck yet?
We've got our last one for next year. Our last payment. So,
Okay, I went out and did some investigation in the interest rates that we could receive. And I went, and Carolyn also went with me, and we looked at our bank, Pioneer, we looked at Forward Financials, a new institution in town, and we looked at adding on to the current loan that you currently have at 2.75. That's a very good rate. However, they would, that's Loyal State Bank, they would not add on to that. Their new rate would be 4.06. We went to Forward Financial, we did some discussion with them, we told them we had a little bit better rate. They came down to 3.85, and we told them, but if we took all of our accounts and went over there, they'd come down to 2.95. However, we did discuss it with our current bank, and they do not want to lose our business. They know that any bank would take the rest of our business. They didn't want to do that. They came in today at 2.85 for 5 years. He asked me how much, and we guessed around 150, so it might be a little bit more than that, 5 years.
And
So
what are the payments per year?
He didn't give me a total on that. It'll depend upon, where you go for an institution. If you decide to do that, probably not a whole lot more than what you're currently paying right now.
Well, how much principal? 160?
Well, I didn't know those numbers when I went in. I asked for 150, thereabouts. So I think we could go.
What did you just figure out? Yeah. What did you just figure out?
I was just writing it down,
I know, but what were the figures that you wrote?
So with everything and with the 20 in the CD, the 20 that we put into the bridge, which we can get back out, that was my motion. And if you think you've got 20 for that, from Fall Fest, that puts you at 60. You should have $4,000 out of the skid account that's in here, because if you're gonna get new stuff, you shouldn't be spending on that.
There'd be a little bit, I'd probably leave 1,000 left in there for the compressor. There's having a little bit of work done with that. A couple of gauges and stuff, and the filters and that. And it may not be a full 1,000, but I mean, at least 500 probably. Oil change and everything.
That was leaving 500. I'll leave it 600.
And then the 80 for the vehicle. So it's a total of
160.
160. So basically I would guess that it would be very close with that, because it was 275 for the ladder, and this is 2.85 for each.
Well, I have about 35,000 payments a year. 160,000 times 2.85 is 4,056 in interest.
I got,
So,
I don't think so. I don't think it's that much.
160,000 divided by 5 years is 32,000 times 1.0285 is a first year principal and interest of 32,912.
32. So,
Is there any wiggle room yet on the price of the vehicle?
I don't believe so. I mean, I can try, but I don't believe.
Sure it is. How long has it been for sale?
They're just in the process of already taking out the service in a couple of weeks already. We've had it online for probably 3 months.
Who are we talking about?
I mean, I'm gonna try just as I did the other one.
The fire
Remember that one
department.
was at 27.
that have the one
But,
that has the
I mean-
machine.
So at the end of last year, you had about $20,000 you figured you could spend out of your budget. That's the deal, so. You just accounted for 4 out of this. So how much more do you think you're gonna have left?
This year, I don't, like I said, I don't know, we're still gonna have the entire back of the ladder when we moved it out, or we're gonna have to skew it from something else or do something there. because they're just about, I mean, first off, they were slick tires from Florida to begin with, and they're just about down to their measured safety length or depth on those. So we're gonna have to try to do that before snow hits us anyway.
You have
And with
those in your
4,000
budget?
Yes. We took it right now to cover the fire costs. So we're gonna move it from somewhere else to just to
We
cover.
didn't touch ladder, you still got 9,000 in there. Plus.
That's not what I took. You took the 4,000, whatever to cover, or 6,000 to cover Stratford's cost, and you took it out of the ladder, I believe. Oh, where did we move it then?
Fire call funds?
Correct. I thought we moved it out of the.
It's 65, oh, 65, yeah, so they didn't, we didn't keep that out.
They didn't touch the ladder.
So where did it go?
That $111,000 account,
Okay.
the slush fund.
Not out of yours.
Okay, okay. I mean, also, depending upon how, I mean, how it goes out, payroll's got quite a bit left in it too, if you looked on that out, on that item, then fire.
And which rescue 3 work right now?
I mean,
Which does it weigh?
yeah, that's about what it is. I don't know what the gross weight is right now, but.
Okay, so you're asking us to borrow $160,000.
Correct. Carolyn, that.
Yes, sir.
That, $160,000, that's $2,800 a month, $2,860 a month payment.
The bank doesn't, it's an annual payment though, they're not monthly.
It's an annual payment.
Okay, I just did it monthly there.
Yeah. So it comes out to, because I know the one we had for 2.75 came out to, well, it's almost, I think it was 30,000, something like that. Maybe closer to 31. So I figured with it, 2.8 at 5 years, still the same amount. I mean, we've gone up, because we borrowed 100 and, did we borrow, how much, 140? 140 for the ladder.
Do they force you the month or yearly annual payment?
And what?
Do they force an annual payment only, or what?
No, we just chose to do it that way.
You're not pulling the principal down as fast, so you're spending more money.
Yeah, if you paid twice a year, you save on the loan.
If you pay monthly, you
I
save
don't know,
more.
it's just the way it was set up, and so if we could,
No,
I mean, we haven't gone into any negotiations at all with the bank, because, we just told them, well, first of all, they came out with a higher interest rate. And we told them that, well, we have been offered, if we move all of our stuff out of your bank and go to theirs, we'd get this better rate. And I said, besides that, I'm not messing around, because we did that once before, and I walked away from the same bank because they wouldn't come down. And so when they called this morning, they came up with that 2.85. So I feel like we did as good as we could do as far as the bank is concerned. So it's just a matter of, and we, with the ladder truck, they had 70,000 in a CD. The ladder truck was actually 220,000. And wasn't it?
275, you said?
It was 210.
You said
It was
275.
210. And anyway, we split that with the fire department. So that's why we're using whatever they've got available, and they will need to continue to pay too.
Yeah.
So,
I
that's
think
why
I think what he's looking at, I use the Spectrum, it's not a DOT, and I think what he's looking at really is not a bad deal. I was amazed at the price. I know it's 20 years old, but I was amazed at the price.
yeah.
The only thing bad is the Detroit East Lane. I think a little better vote anchor than they do an engine, but
So
That's what appears to be
the negotiations with the bank, and we'll see what we can,
They did offer us two more. Yeah.
Twice a year?
But we just said, we're just checking on numbers right now, no decisions were made, so we can look at the difference in paying monthly or twice a year or
the
whatever.
only reason I brought it up is I'm cheap, so if you pay by the month, obviously the principal's coming down, there's less interest.
Yeah, of course.
right,
So that's the only way I'm looking at it, you know.
yeah. Well, what do we wanna do, folks? We need to make a decision. Somebody wanna make a motion?
We have to do this right now again, or can we get a final number? I know you want us to jump at it right now, but I mean, is this another month that it could be sold? I know how
I
it
mean,
works,
that is
but
the other thing I guess is because they are gonna be taking it out of service, I would like to get it before they park it outside. I mean, you know, as fire rigs are with lights and everything else, the longer you park them outside, the more they deteriorate.
When were they taking it out of service?
I believe it's shortly here, within a couple weeks. They're taking delivery of a new one.
Brand new one?
Yes.
Spencer just got rescued, it was brand new, right?
Yeah, about 300,000.
That was 300.
can it be brought back on the 25th when we run our budget meeting and just have that on the agenda for our workshop? It's 2 weeks left.
I think on the truck,
It's
the
solid numbers.
truck needs to be budgeted. I'll go along with the safety of the tanks, but
Yeah.
the truck should be budgeted.
Okay, so,
And let the people decide, you know, and if they want the truck, well, they'll let the taxes go on.
So we're gonna wait till December?
There's more trucks in the world out there than that one, so.
I understand.
It's not in the budget. We can't, you know, we can't do it, it's not in the budget. The tanks is an emergency, I mean, that's replacement emergency equipment, I can go along with that, but not a truck, not the truck, you know.
And this was
But
one
that's
of
my,
the complaints.
that's my opinion.
I guess the thing is, I look at the truck is also a safety hazard within itself. I mean, like I say, it's got 2 lap belts in it, that's the safety out of the deal. If I run anybody else down the road, they're not in a belt. When we fill air bottles with, when we carry out.
I understand all that.
if you, they're gonna give you 60 to begin with for the down payment. And then, well,
Okay.
you'll have to do the figures.
I'm just,
Yeah.
I'm just saying that.
So, I mean, if they're gonna help pay, they're not gonna pay, they're gonna pay their share, whatever it is, per year.
I mean, I'd like to be
All Fest funds?
as much as we can. I mean, I would like to be able to say what the previous chief did with the ladder truck, but he had quite a bit more money put aside, and he didn't put it out right away, so that if they had a bad year at Fall Fest, he could cover it by what was there. And when we were done with that last payment, we were down to our minimum money. I mean, we were down to start money, that's all we had left for that last year of our obligation of the ladder truck. And it is tough to try to get, I mean, I know that the group is gonna do the Fall Fest and they're gonna try to get the money and stuff, but it's tough year in and year out to say that you're gonna make X. I mean, if the economy takes a dump, I mean, people don't donate like they do when it's good. I mean, it's just, I mean, we're gonna do what we can do down the road, but I mean.
Yeah, yes, Mike?
I'm afraid that I agree with what Russ is saying. I'm not afraid, but I agree with Russ because we didn't talk about the revenue component of this budget versus actual report. Your general property taxes are going to be underfunded by at least $9,000 compared to what you had budgeted. Your special assessment for garbage collections are going to be underfunded by $12,000. So that's $20,000 that needs to come out of that $111,000 that we
That were, numbers I gave didn't even touch that.
But what I'm saying is then, the levy limit worksheets are available now, and that day, the 25th, I'll be taking a class all day on that topic and budgeting topic. And then at that point, that night, we can actually start to plug numbers in, new borrowing into the levy limit worksheet to see if we can afford it. But I agree with Russ, I don't see how you pay for it this year.
There's no payment this year's payment starts in May.
It starts next year.
Okay.
They don't start this
Okay.
year.
Yeah, your payment still
Yeah,
starts
there's no
next
payment
year
this year.
because you're
Okay.
putting 60,000 down.
Okay,
They're gonna get what they can and,
okay,
yeah, it's not about this year. but-
okay.
Loan payments aren't counted towards your levy limit.
Well, they
Right, you
They
can
increase
raise your
what you're able
own.
to-
It increases your levy.
yes.
And while we're on the topic, it's really hard to increase fire department call fees that you charge the public. They've got a law, you can do it, but basically it reduces your levy limit by the amount of new revenue you would get by doing it. So that's not a great option, just, you know.
So we might be better where we're at right now.
Yeah, I think so.
It's kind of like what Russ is saying. I mean, at some point, you need to look at raising your levy if that's what you think you need.
And I appreciate the fact the way you presented it tonight as compared to the first time around. And also, you know, as Russ said in my letter, the way that one went around last time, or kind of felt it was right down our throat, it should be budgeted.
Gotta be in the budget, that's the way it is.
So we borrow the 144,000 for 150,000 for the breeders. And then, is that what you're saying?
No.
So what are you saying? I mean, if you're not, you don't want, I mean, I'm worried about this
What,
percentage that they,
what's the fine line as board members when they look at how they do stuff or buying stuff that's in the budget period, whether it's, you know, considered, you know, emergency,
Mhm.
you know. The fire truck wasn't an emergency before. You took it out of service, you had it back in service, correct?
I guess the question on it is what's considered in service. I'm not going to, I mean, part of his job would be if we're called to Lawson or someplace else, it's supposed to go. And, I mean, part of Mavis is you supply what you can supply. We need the rig, so it's not like we're having something that we don't need if someone else calls. The thing is we don't have ambulances. So if we need an ambulance out of the safer area or something like that, in Mavis, we have them on our cards for ambulances. Obviously, we're not buying an ambulance at $100,000 or $200,000. So, I mean, it's a give and kind of a take, and if we're going up there, I mean, with guys, we have to, I mean, with the current rig, if we're gonna take and try to push it that far with antifreeze and the oil where you don't know how fast it's going in, I mean, if it blows up halfway up there, I mean, that's not fair to them.
How much was
because
in there when you just changed it?
there was about, we kind of looked at it, kind of estimate about 2 cups, again.
It's still.
We've been keeping an eye on it, and all we did was drive it around with the building, and it's not running in as it sits there, it's going in when it's running and heating up.
But you've been taking it out.
The only time we took it around was Election Day, we parked it in the lot back here, and Fall Fest, we run it out. That's all we've run it. We're trying not to use it, instead of taking, and that's one of the other things, is instead of taking the rescue to a 1050 for an accident, we're taking 2 tankers, because we're trying to save it for when we really gotta have it. I mean, that's the problem, we're trying to, and now if we're gonna go into colder weather, we're gonna be taking a tanker out in the colder weather to sit out and do traffic, and, I mean, every time you take something with water in it, it has a chance to freeze. I mean, one tanker you take out, that's understandable because you need water there in case something catches fire, but I don't need 2 tankers sitting out in the cold with pumps on them and everything. And the second tank we're taking out is tanker 1, which is an older chassis and an older rig, and more of the pump and everything underneath is exposed. When we did tanker 2, when that one was rebuilt, that's actually physically in a cabinet because we knew that we were going to have to take it out. So there's more, you know, the wind can't get at it and blow through it like it does on the older one.
One's a hydraulically driven one, one's a PTO driven one. The older one.
I understand the benefits to having them both.
Well, somebody needs to make a motion one way or another.
I mean, I understand that this is a pill, but the problem is I mean, give or take, either the pill's gonna have to be swallowed today, tomorrow, or the next day. I mean, or services will start dropping. I mean, we'll have to start taking breathers out of service. And we're not, I mean, I guess the other thing out of it is when you basically have the departments around you are upgrading their equipment, and then you decide that you're not gonna upgrade. How long will they keep allowed to come to your Mavis calls and stuff if you're not gonna upgrade your equipment?
How does Lincoln function at half our cost? We brought that up before.
Lincoln runs with, I think they have, don't quote me, but I think they have like 8 firefighters. They're running part of the rural association, so every time that they have a fire, everybody comes running, and they hope to work at it. And I mean, you talk to their chief and their assistant chief, and they're struggling at that too.
Well, I could see where they'd be struggling at only 80,000.
So how do we do this then? If you feel that needs to be on the budget, but we need to address it now. I mean,
That's
you
just
just
how I
wait.
feel. That's how I feel. I don't know. The other
Well,
part
I
of it
know,
might
but
feel
I-
entirely different. I just don't think, you know, 3-4 months is not that far away, and you can put it in the budget, and it'll be done the way it's supposed to be done. It always ends up being a crisis. Why is it a crisis, you know?
Well, I don't think it's, I guess part of it, I don't know if it's crisis is the right word for it, but as the township, we always try to push everything until it doesn't work. And then you have to fix it or you have to address it. I mean, when you're pushing a rig down the road that's 1979, I mean, you know, eventually it's gonna fail. So the question is, do you preemptive? I mean, if I would have said last year.
I understand that. You know,
Well, it's gonna be, if we would borrow, if we would do boats now, you've got your payment that you're gonna be making, then that will certainly go in your budget next year. Then they'll be paying, but they're gonna make, if they would make the down payment of 60,000. I mean, so then you've got,
Can we just put up back in the agenda for the 25th for the budget workshop, and it'll have to be an agenda item, and can you come back with solidified?
Thoroughly in favor of the tanks. I think that's, you know, that you can.
I mean, I've talked to them twice, and they're firm on their
city truck.
Someone has an in-law on the board that wants to get a real good number in writing.
I mean, I guess if we could turn that tape recorder off, then I'd appreciate it. Everybody watches it, so if I say what I'm gonna say, they'll say no, but.
See what you gotta say.
Well, I guess my theory on it, what my deal would be is I did the other one, is I basically kind of dropped another I think it was 5,000 or 7,000 off and said that's what the board gave me. Can we still work something out? Problem is now, if he's watching, then they're gonna know that you gave me the full amount or.
Well,
But that's why I'm asking for something in writing.
You
What-
could give them that much tonight, and if it's not enough, you got it on the agenda in 2 weeks.
It's kind of back.
That's the same thing else.
And then send them the link.
I mean, it's easier to do when you have something to offer, you know, you walk in, when you buy a pickup truck, you walk in, you go, here's the cash. Then, okay, I've gotta go to my board now and ask approval.
Part of my concern about the letter that I wrote to the DA was about purchasing stuff that's not in the budget, and it's right back full circle again at the end of the year about doing this.
Make your motion then. How you want to handle it?
That's the best numbers on the breathers.
I mean, obviously, I'm gonna work on it some more, and if we do, I mean, it'll come down a little, but
So why don't we put on the agenda for the 25th? And if Rod can make some phone calls and get some numbers in writing, what they will do, then we'll.
For what, the breather or the machine?
Both.
How many companies make breathers?
there's dozens.
Huh?
There's dozens. The problem is when your municipalities around, you start purchasing one brand. If you go to something else, nothing's compatible. I mean, if we're running short on air with, when we're going to Stratford, I mean, you gotta remember, we're initial aid with them. So that means they're short, if we get a structure fire, anything major, they're coming to ours, we're going to theirs. They can go off our rigs. If they're running short on air, they can pull it off. If we gotta do, like with the containment with the Cascade system filling, it's got the same fittings on it to fill the bottles. It's the same, they're compatible, they go back and forth. Doesn't matter whether we're using their bottle on our breather or they're using our bottle on theirs. It goes back and forth. If you go and you buy something else from somebody else, because there's a lot of cheaper companies out there that make breathers. I mean, I'm gonna tell you that. MSA is one of the best. There's two of them out there, Scott and there's MSA. Everybody else is just, I mean, they're Draeger, but they're having, I mean, they're just not the quality of breather. And when you start changing things around from who you're working with, now all of a sudden, oh, I gotta find my breather because I'm used to what I use. Instead of that, now you're running around on rigs looking, when you run short on air bottles, you can't just grab a bottle and go.
How's Marshall run?
MSA.
Runs MSA also.
And we've run MSAs for 15 years. I mean, the other thing is we're working with 5 Alarm for our service. They've been, I mean, they're Johnny on the spot. And when they do their float tests, I mean, I get very few problems with them after they do their float test. He finds the problems with them and fixes them. The problem, I mean, like with these, it'd be so simple to say, well, we'll just buy some more bottles. The problem is where do we make, when do we make the flip? When do we switch? How old and how far do you push these things? Do you wait till they fail and you have somebody in the hospital? Do you, I mean, do we go another, I mean, so we buy some more bottles and put with them? I mean, I don't know how, I don't want to put, I mean, it's kind of like the Rescue 3. I don't want to put good money for bad. When something's done and it's run its course, it's done and it's run its course.
So can you, on the 25th, have numbers? It's not just the 5 board members up here.
I understand.
It's everybody out there. And if it goes, the residents are gonna set the levy limit. So it's not just trying to convince 5 people up here, it's the community. And they need to believe in it to do that. Because this board tonight can say, yes, we're gonna give you $200,000 to do this. And the residents can lower the levy limit. And now we gotta figure out how we're gonna do this, because you're gonna have what you want and what you need. Not want, I say need. But where's the shortfall gonna come after that if the levy gets lower?
obviously, I mean, you see the budget, obviously, some of the niceties that we have aren't gonna be there. I mean, we know that. I mean, I guess that's the,
And we still got the bridge that we needed to have some money on too. So I make the motion to table this for the 25th.
I think we need to make a motion to approve the breathers. I think that this is what they feel comfortable with. I think we need to make approve the breathers.
I don't think anything's gonna change between now and the 25th, I would agree. I'll make a motion that we go ahead and fund the purchase of the breathers as presented.
And then on the 25th, we can, but we won't do anything with the bank until we meet again then. We need to approve the breathers. That's a must. The firefighters cannot go into burning buildings with failing.
What's 2 weeks gonna change?
Nothing, it's just that I think that's a step for us. I don't care, you do
How many
it.
tanks you got now, Rod?
I made the motion.
Yeah,
The
3 motions with no
48
seconds.
No, I mean, units for everybody.
we have 27, or 24, sorry.
So everybody's good?